Welcome to the Foundry by Forge College. Look, Solana's binary architecture, it is blazingly fast and incredibly efficient. But let's be real, to a standard Web 2 front-end developer, looking at that raw on-chain data might as well be like trying to read ancient hieroglyphs. It's confusing. So today, in this explainer, we're going to build the ultimate universal translator. We are going to bridge that gap and translate all that complex on-chain state into standard, predictable Web 2 REST JSON, the exact kind of stuff any front-end developer can easily just pick up and work with.
All right, here is our engineering schematic for today. We'll quickly run through an intro to resource modeling, naming your Solana resources, mapping HTTP methods, designing the perfect payload, a real-world NFT dashboard example, and then we'll wrap it all up with our conclusion and next steps.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, Intro to Resource Modeling, Bridging On-Chain Data to REST.
So, if you've been tracking with us in our Web 2 integration track, you know we literally just wrapped up our last lesson on Ethereum's ERC 1155 mechanics and batch transfers. Well, go ahead and pack your bags because we are making a massive change up today. We're leaving Ethereum in the rearview mirror and diving headfirst into the read-mostly nuances of Solana. Our main goal here is to figure out exactly how to model Solana's unique state so that front-end clients can easily query it. And the best part? They won't need to understand any complex slot internals or crazy transaction plumbing to make it work.
Moving right along to Section 2, Naming Your Solana Resources, Addressing the Network.
Now that we know what our goal is, we have to determine how our clients will actually address and locate this alien on-chain data across the network. This brings us to a super important concept, resource identity. Think of it like this. You wouldn't expect a mail carrier to deliver a package without a precise street address, right? Same thing here. Every single piece of Solana state requires a stable, canonical identifier so we can create a clear, predictable URL. So, for individual accounts, we use their public keys, or pubkeys. And when we're looking at smart contracts, we use their programIds. It's absolutely the bedrock of your API's addressing system. Notice how we put that identity to work by structuring our URLs hierarchically. See that orange bracket highlighting the program ID? You just place those base 58 encoded pub keys directly into the path segments to clearly identify the collection resources. Instead of burying these really crucial identifiers in some messy, impossible-to-read query string, placing them right in the path makes your API intuitive, discoverable, and honestly just incredibly clean for developers to use.
Which brings us to Section 3, Mapping Your HTTP Methods, the Blueprint of Action.
All right, we've got our names. Let's map out exactly how we interact with these resources. Here's the deal with Solana REST endpoints. They are overwhelmingly read-heavy. We're usually just querying state that has already been finalized on the blockchain. Because of that, GET is absolutely going to be your workhorse. It reads the state and it is idempotent, meaning it's perfectly safe to call repeatedly without changing anything on-chain. Now POST is a completely different story here. In a standard Web 2 app, POST mutates data, right? Tell a Web 2 developer that POST doesn't mutate data here and just watch their heads spin. In Web 3, POST is carefully reserved for transaction orchestration, like generating a payload for a user to sign, rather than direct data mutation. Why? Because actual on-chain mutations require cryptographic finality, not just a simple API request.
Okay, Section 4, Designing the Perfect Payload, JSON Envelopes.
We have our URL and our GET request. Now let's examine the actual payload, the JSON envelope that securely packages our on-chain data for its journey back to the client. You can consistently design flawless, professional-grade endpoints by just following this clean, four-step engineering loop. Step 1, identify the client's intent and the resource identity. Step 2, choose your data representation. Are we talking JSON or binary? Step 3, define your query surface, which usually means figuring out your pagination strategy. And finally, Step 4, attach your metadata. Seriously, run every single endpoint you build through this exact loop, and you will save yourself endless debugging headaches down the line.
Let's zoom in on Step 2 of that loop for a second, choosing your representation. It's actually an industry best practice to provide both. Provide the easily readable JSON, decoded right alongside the raw binary payload. The decoded JSON offers massive convenience for your UI developers who just want to display data quickly. But giving them that raw binary data, encoded in base 64 or base 58, that ensures your clients have exactly what they need if they ever have to perform low-level cryptographic verification on their own end. It's the best of both worlds.
Jumping into Section 5, the NFT dashboard example, real-world application.
Let's bring all these abstract engineering concepts down to earth, okay? Let's look at a concrete blueprint for building something you'd actually use, a Solana NFT marketplace dashboard. A truly well-architected dashboard requires distinct, heavily targeted endpoints to keep things incredibly fast. You're looking at 3 essentials right here. First, a paginated collection view to browse items, mapping directly to a collection ID. Second, a detail view using the specific mint pub key as its identity for when a user actually clicks into a single NFT. And third, an aggregated endpoint to track recent trades across a specific market ID. By separating these concerns, your front end can fetch exactly what it needs when it needs it, and usually entirely in parallel.
But wait, querying fast-moving on-chain data introduces a massive engineering challenge. How in the world do we handle staleness? Think about it. When millions of transactions are firing across the Solana network every single second, the data your REST API returns might technically be slightly out of date by the exact millisecond it reaches the user's browser.
And that right there is exactly why we attach a meta envelope to our payload in step 4. Think of this like a high-tech shipping manifest with real-time tracking details. By explicitly including the slot number, the precise block time, the finality status, and the encoding type, the client application instantly knows exactly how fresh the data is. It gives the front end the power to intelligently decide, hey, can I trust this cache data, or do I need to revalidate against the chain?
This workflow also means you have to align your error semantics. And honestly, this is a detail so many developers just completely overlook. For instance, in a normal Web 2 app, if data isn't there, you throw a 404 not found. But on Solana, what if the transaction was just confirmed, but your API's indexer is lagging a few seconds behind the chain? If you throw a 404, the front end thinks the data is gone forever. In that scenario, returning a 202 accepted is absolutely brilliant. It tells the client, hey, your request is totally valid, we know what you're looking for, we're just catching up, try polling again in a second. It's a real game changer.
Finally, Section 6. Conclusion and next steps, the final polish.
Let's step back, review the final schematics of this universal translator we've built, and lock in your vital takeaways. Number 1, always remember to map your URLs to canonical on-chain identifiers, those pub keys and program IDs. Number 2, explicitly separate your decoded JSON data from your raw binary transport to give clients maximum flexibility. And number 3, always design your system for eventual consistency by exposing those crucial slot and block time metrics right there in your meta envelope.
I really want you to remember this quote. Well-designed resources mean fewer RPC fallbacks and faster client experiences. Ultimately, drafting a clean API contract isn't just about patting yourself on the back for writing tidy code. It fundamentally reduces the crazy complexity your front end has to deal with. It cuts down on excessive network calls, and it drastically speeds up the overall user experience. It is 100% worth the effort.
So what comes next? Well, in our next explainer, we are going to take this exact blueprint we just drafted and put it straight into action. We'll be executing live REST requests to actual Solana endpoints and parsing the real JSON envelopes that we just learned how to design. It's going to be a lot of fun.
To dive much deeper into these concepts, test out some actual code, and explore our full, comprehensive range of Web3 technical tracks, you have to go check out forge.college today. Keep building, stay curious, and we will see you in the next explainer.